Hey, mate, 40 here. So the news has been dominated the last 24 hours by the release of two idiot Americans who'd been imprisoned in Russia. So other American news agencies got their reporters out, and this Evan bloke for the Wall Street Journal, he chose to stay behind in Russia, even though the evidence was overwhelming that he should have gotten the heck out for his own safety. He chose to endanger himself. And then this has been, one of the top 30 news stories in the United States for the past year. And I think the other guy was a former Marine who was in Russia for romantic reasons. So two people who made idiotic decisions to stay in Russia when smart people were getting out. Okay, they've been now released from Russia at the cost of Russian assassins and Russian spies being returned to Russia. So nothing particularly about this deal is significant or good for the United States of America. I'm just curious, why so much attention on this Wall Street Journal reporter when we have 10 American hostages still stuck in Gaza after 10 months? So here's my theory why the Wall Street Journal reporter gets so much attention, gets so much news coverage compared to the American hostages being held in Gaza by Hamas. And that is the news media and our governing elites hate Vladimir Putin. They hate Russia. They hate Russia more than they hate Hamas. And so they are all in on doing everything they can to paint Russia and to paint Putin as the bad guys. And so Evan, the Wall Street Journal reporter, he's just a tool in this campaign to excoriate Russia. And why do our elites and why does the media hate Russia so much? Number one, because Russia's not down with the LGBTQ revolution. And two, that elites have had a hard time coming to terms with the reality of the Donald Trump 2016 election. So instead of coming to terms with reality, they just blame Hillary Clinton's 2016 presidential loss on Russia. It is curious why the Wall Street Journal reporter got so much more news coverage than other American hostages held around the world, particularly those held by Hamas. Why is this guy sacred? All right, you deliberately choose to endanger yourself where there's no big upside for the country, then I just don't regard your well-being as a primary concern. Right? I don't think there's any widespread movement among the American public that this Wall Street Journal reporter Evan must remain in Russia when all other Western news agencies were pulling their reporters out of Russia. So he made a really bad decision. And so then we had to be bombarded by news about Evan for the past 18 months. Right, if you choose to climb Mount Everest, right, that's a risky choice that you take. There's no big benefit to the world. And so whatever happens to you is largely on you. Okay, so number one story in terms of emotional outrage is from the Olympics and the boxing. Now we have two chromosomally, genetically male boxers who just bludgeoned female boxers in two bouts in supposedly female boxing. And I understand the outrage that biological men are being allowed to bludgeon women in boxing. But I don't get why female boxing is even a sport. Right? To me, that's completely repellent. We should not be encouraging women to engage in behavior that is unfeminine, highly dangerous, doesn't really have much redeeming social value, and that they can't do nearly as well as men. So the average man is stronger than 99.9% of women. So any biological man has a huge advantage over women in boxing. But why should women be boxing in the first place? It's just repellent to me. Right? Why would a society, why would a culture, why would a nation, right, encourage its women to be bludgeoning each other? It's horrifying. Right? This is not appropriate for women. And a lot of girls play soccer, but women are much more fragile. Right? Women are much more prone to all sorts of injuries compared to men. So 4 times seems to be a really common ratio of how much more common certain devastating injuries are for women compared to men. So I'm not sure we should be celebrating even female soccer, but definitely not female boxing. What kind of society thinks it's great that its women are boxing? Right? Men and women have different gifts. This notion that anything a man can do, a woman can do as well, is not true. Right? There are all sorts of things that men do that are simply superior to what women can do, and there are all sorts of things that women can do that are superior to what men can do. And this liberal notion that we're all just autonomous human beings operating ideally through the force of our will, creating our own morality and meaning systems, is not a healthy one. Right? We would be better off reducing choice. Right? We'd be better off with a society that doesn't encourage women to be boxing each other. That's insane. Women are so much more fragile than men. Now, if there are sports that women can engage in with relatively low percentage chance of serious injury, then fine. But boxing is one of the most dangerous sports that any human being can compete in. Why on earth would you want your women engaged in boxing? How long have we had female boxing in the Olympics? I think it's horrible. I prefer a society where men and women have different roles. The boxing story is untrue. It's not a tranny issue. The female boxer in question is a woman, yeah, but biologically a man. All right? Chromosomally, his chromosomes are male chromosomes. Right? He's biologically a man. Sex is found in the chromosomes, and these two male boxers competing in female boxing are, by their chromosomes, men, not women. It's just crazy to encourage this self-destructive, unfeminine behavior, right? We should understand that different people have different gifts, and there should be different roles in life for men and women. Why would any society want to encourage girls to participate in activities that are likely to be highly dangerous for them? So I think we need a big rethink on female sports, but particularly Title IX is an absolute disaster. So to meet the requirements of the federal government, Title IX, we've had to close down all sorts of male sports and create all these female sports at American colleges and universities. And sports simply doesn't play the same role for women as it does for men. Men have much higher levels of testosterone. Right? Men are much more competitive. Men have much more of a need for sporting outlets compared to women. Right? If female sport can pay its own way, then fine, colleges should have female sports. But these female sports are overwhelmingly subsidized by male sports. And to fit these insane Title IX requirements that treat females and men as the same, and therefore colleges must treat males and females the same and provide them the same sporting opportunities, is insane, because men have a much greater need for sports than do women. Men love competition. Women, by and large, do not enjoy competition. Men love direct, blunt, mano a mano competition. Women, by and large, do not. Men have much higher levels of testosterone, and it's just part of their biological makeup is to compete and to fight. Right? Sports are a preparation for fighting. That's where you get the saying about England, that England's victories on the battlefield were won on the playing fields of Eton, the elite private school in England. Right? We need sports for men to fire up their competitive juices and to keep them in preparation for battle, either as participants or as fans. Right? It fires up your in-group national identities so that you're prepared to go for war. Right? If there's war, right, it's going to be fought by men. Overwhelmingly, men are going to die. And it's insane to try to integrate police forces, right? A male and a female cop working together, right? It's not usually going to be a good idea because they're going to screw each other and it's going to diminish morale, right? You're going to have much higher morale when you've got male-only spaces. And I'm sure that there are occasions when female police officers are an advantage, but the idea that male and female police officers are interchangeable is ridiculous. Women overwhelmingly lack the strength, and it reduces cohesion, and you really don't want to be working side by side with someone of the opposite sex if you're heterosexual. Right? It's going to reduce your odds of staying faithfully married to your spouse, and it's going to reduce your ability to concentrate on your work. So I'm for return to more of a 1950s attitude on these things, where life is primarily sexually segregated. I like how it is in Australia, right? Australia is the most sexually segregated country in the first world. And men simply operate better, operate more efficiently, operate more effectively when they're in male-only spaces, right? Boys learn better, generally speaking, in same-sex education. So, next topic. Kamala Harris spoke extemporaneously with the prisoner exchange, and what she said was just absolute word salad, right? Just a mess. So just as the news media hid Joe Biden's infirmity, meaning his senility, for 3.5 years, now they're desperately trying to cover up Kamala Harris's infirmity, which is her crippling amounts of insecurity that show up whenever she has to go off script. And so she went off script to celebrate the return of American hostages from Russia. And what she said made absolutely no sense. So there's a RNC video on X that shows Kamala Harris burning up, preparing in a vehicle for 30 minutes before going out to read a statement to the press, not take any questions, not say anything extemporaneously. So you can see why the Democrats want to keep Kamala Harris so tightly scripted, because when she does go off script, she looks like a blithering idiot. Now, she's very good performing with a script, and she certainly has her strengths. She's a formidable opponent for Donald Trump, but if she ever has to go off script and she just can't rely on pure rote memory, then her insecurity comes out, and that's what drives the ridiculous hand gestures and the word salad and the insane laugh and cackle.